Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Birds vs. Boys. We are 8 days out as we record this from the 2025 NFL Draft in Green Bay, Wisconsin. The Cowboys are locked in. The Eagles are locked in. NFL teams are finishing up their 30 visits. Their boards are coming together. The last second tweaks are happening. Conversations are flowing about trades, players on the move. It sounds like Jalen Ramsey may be a draft day. It seems like maybe even Dallas Goedert may be a draft day trade away from the Eagles. A lot going on, and it is time for Aiden and I to do our pulse check. Where do the Eagles stand 1 week out? Where do the Cowboys stand 1 week out? What are we hearing generally around the board in the NFL 1 week out? And then tomorrow we'll be recording our full first round mock draft that we do together. Aiden, it's coming fast.
Whoa. Okay.
That's what she said.
Yeah, it is 1 week away. I have to say, this is the most that I've done paid attention draft wise. It's been awesome.
You're killing it right now.
I've done a mock draft quite literally every single day. I listen to podcasts about mock drafts every single day and just overall prospect news. It's been great, which is just hilarious because statistically speaking, this is the worst first round pick I've ever had. And this is the year that I went the hardest in terms of like evaluating prospects, but it's been a ton of fun.
But I would say, even though you're sitting at 32, right? We've talked about this. There's not a huge difference from like the 10th pick to the 32nd pick.
So that's what's going to make draft day fun is we've talked about this. Every show has talked about this. There's two elite guys. There's one quarterback that we know is going to go off the board. And then after that,
it could go so many ways.
I was going to say, I'm so disappointed that in Pennsylvania, you can't bet on draft related stuff. I thought we really had something there because you can bet draft position, first receiver off the board, this person to go top 10 pick. You can't do it in Pennsylvania where we are, which is really disappointing because I think it's going to be a scramble of a mess.
Yep. And, it's funny. Like, I'll talk Cowboys, right? Cowboys sitting at 12. I think people are honing in on receiver, and I don't hate that, and I don't think they're wrong, right? It was funny the first month or so. Everybody was like, Genty, and I was just sitting back like, yeah, he's too good to go at 12.
Yeah.
And now he's barely getting past the Bears or the Raiders. So now it's shifted, and even Mel Kiper has, for the first time, shifted off Omarion Hampton at 12 for the Cowboys, because I think that would be horrific. This running back class is deep. You can get good running backs at 44, 77 for the Cowboys, but everybody's like honing in on receiver. But the way this draft could go, right? Who knows? Somebody could love Tet McMillan in the top 10, and someone else could love Golden, right? So then you're sitting there, it's like, are you really going to take Ibuka at 12 and somehow maybe Will Campbell or Membu to 12, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the Cowboys are taking an offensive lineman?
Somebody in the top 10 could have a lot of areas of need and decide that since they have a new head coach who's a quarterback guru who just worked with Jalen Hurts, might need a quarterback and go quarterback and take somebody who has comparable traits to Jalen Hurts and take Jackson Dart at 9th overall. I'm not going to say any names of what team that could be, but they could do that. And then it would shift the whole draft board to add, like, it would give better chances that Tet McMillan falls down the board, or an offensive tackle falls down the board, or an edge rusher, somebody.
And if that happens, right, let's say then Cam Ward and Jackson Dart somehow are both off the board before 10. Does that mean the Steelers now are picking up the phone at 10, 11, 12 to try and come up for Shedeur?
That is best case scenario for both of our teams. So I know we want to do general pulse check of both of our teams. Let's start there. We'll be like in the final scene in Fast and Furious 7. Eventually, we're going to have to do the fork in the road with Paul Walker and Vin Diesel. But for right now, both of our teams, that would be the best case scenario. 3 quarterbacks off the board in the first round, because then it funnels more people at our positions that we want down to us. We're kind of like those catfish at the bottom of the ocean where we can't really seek our prey right now, but when the food falls to us, then we're doing better.
We're going to eat it. Yep.
Except in
And
a lot of cases, somehow the past few years, the Eagles have been catfish and also great white sharks, where the
mhm.
food is just falling, and the great white shark is like, really? It's like the shark in Jaws when the people just kept swimming in the water because the mayor kept
Yep.
opening the water, and he was just like, "Are you really just going to give me this food again and again and again?" That's how he rose with the
It's like
past few years. We just keep having stars get close, and we trade up.
It's like you're at Burger King ordering off the dollar menu, which I don't even think they have the dollar menu anymore with tariffs and inflation. But you're at like the $7 menu,
Yeah,
right? And you order like a cheeseburger, and then all of a sudden some waiter walks out with a steak from Ruth Chris and gives it to you,
yeah.
and you're like,
Like,
"Really?
okay.
Like what?"
I did not have that
Thank you.
experience growing up at Burger King. I actually got a soda filled with ants from Burger King one time. Never went back.
So you got Jalen Reagor.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I went in and I was like, "Can I have Justin Jefferson, please?" And they're like, "Here you go." And I was like, "There's ants in this Justin Jefferson."
This isn't
This
right.
isn't right. I didn't order this.
But you drank it anyway in the beginning, thinking it was gonna be good,
Correct.
and you tried to talk yourself into it being
I had
good.
a sip before I opened the lid.
You're like, maybe,
Mm,
and then you're like,
like,
nope,
this tastes like
nope.
Pepsi, but there's something. They got extra ingredients in here. Not the good
It is
ones.
not performance enhancing.
Not performance enhancing enough, apparently.
Oh. All right, you want to? We can start at the Cowboys since obviously they're picking much higher than the Philadelphia Eagles, and who knows, Philadelphia Eagles might not even be picking on Thursday night.
We are very much like I know you could say this for any team, but we are so much draft board related. Because if one
Yes.
of the guys starts falling, we'll trade up. The draft boards I'm going to let the Cowboys go, I swear, but just to put it in Eagles perspective, the mock drafts that I've seen recently have been like disaster area where it's like James Pierce, Donovan Azaraku, Walter Nolan, like they're all off the board. Even some of the better tackle prospects and defensive tackle prospects, they're all off the board. And then it's like the fringe guys, which isn't the worst case scenario, but there's no difference between getting them at 32 and getting them at 35. But like in these
Yep.
mock drafts where Walter Nolan falls to 29, like the Eagles are probably going to make the leap, you know? So it's interesting, but we are very draft board related. Cowboys, much more so, I think you can keen in a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, where the Eagles sit and the draft capital that they have, and the team that they have, they literally could go anywhere and do anything, just about right.
Yeah.
They're like when you're a single guy and you're 25, 26 and you're at the bar, you could go home with a 21-year-old or a 45-year-old and you're going to have a great time. You're in that perfect sweet spot, right?
Yeah.
That's where the Eagles are.
We're the sweet spot. We're the sweet spot.
It's perfect.
What's funny, draft content wise, I kind of related it to day drinking, where when you day drink and you start early and then you get to 2 or 3 o'clock and you feel like a zombie and you're just like,
Mhm.
I need.
Oh, just wait till you hit 38,
Oh
Aiden.
man, that's how I felt draft content wise. Like one day where I was just like, I just can't hear arm length again. Like I just can't hear the term arm length. I can't hear Shador's name
Yep.
anymore. And that was me. Like
Yep.
I can't. It's the same feeling. It's like I can't have another Miller Lite. I'm too tired.
You want to hear about being old too? So last week when I was at my work meeting, um, the team that I run, they're like, "Oh, there's a kid. His name actually is Aiden,
Nice.
who works for my company, and he's like 23. He's young." And they're like, "Oh, he's your doppelganger." We went up. He was sitting at the table for breakfast, and we all thought it was you. And we're like, "Whoop, nope, not Kevin." And so we're sitting at the bar one night, and I told him, I'm like, apparently they think you're my doppelganger. And he goes, "Man, I hope I have your hairline at your age." And I was like, "My age? When did I become that?"
Oh no, you're a
I got hit with that.
your age guy. Oh no,
Mhm.
that's horrible news.
Yep. And then other young people at the company were coming up to me asking, like, "So what have you? How did you get to where you are in your career? And what have you done?" I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. That was me. I'm the one supposed to be asking those
Yeah.
questions.
Oh no.
I'm that guy."
Oh no.
Mhm. Uh-huh. All right, back to the Cowboys, back to the Eagles, back to the NFL draft. So, yes, Cowboys sitting at 12. And like I said earlier, a lot of the local media, a lot of the national media are honing in at receiver. And I think that is a glaring need. That is a blinking light. That is an emergency. Because if they had to play a football game right now, well, Dak Prescott said he could play with his hamstring, but He's just lying to everyone. If they went into a football game right now, let's say they were playing the Eagles week 1, and I still hope we don't have the schedule yet, right? We
That's
just have
okay.
opponents. Yeah. I still hope that the NFL makes the Cowboys come to Philadelphia week 1 on Thursday night and make Jerry and Steven sit there and watch the banner get raised. Not going to happen, but that's what I
Would be
want.
awesome
But let's say
content.
in Philly, Cowboys are lining up right now. It is CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Tolbert, Turpin, Ryan Flournoy, and Jonathan Mingo, who they just traded a fourth for, second year in a row, not having a fourth round pick. I wonder why. But that is not acceptable. That is not a receiver room that, quote unquote, I want to go to war with. So they need an upgrade at 2. They have not had 2 wide receivers go over 700 yards each since CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper did it, I think, in
22.
2019, I want to say.
Whoa. Time is
Yeah,
flying by at your age.
flying by. So, so I'm all in at receiver if that is the choice. Now, again, it depends on how the board falls. I love Will Campbell, and I think if they got a Will Campbell, that's going to help them immensely on that offensive line. I like Membu also. I don't know if you watched him. Like, I feel like he needs to be a little more mean. Like, I don't know if he has like that Tyron Smith, I'm going to end you once I walk onto the field
Mhm.
mentality, but that could happen. But he's an athletic freak, and with the pin and pulls that Schottenheimer wants to run, I think he would be awesome.
Okay. Someone explain this to me with Membu and
Uh-huh.
Will Campbell. I've listened, honest to God, to 20 plus draft shows. Every single one seems to talk about Will Campbell the same way. They're like, yeah, he's good, but on tape against the best opponents, man, he struggled. And last time I was listening to one, I was like, yeah, he'll anchor, but it's dangerously close to the quarterback. Then they go to the next tackle, number 2, Membu. Oh yeah, he's a really really solid tackle. We love all of his traits. And then they're like, yeah, he's got good footwork. He's got really a great athleticism for a tackle position. Just a naturally born left tackle. And I'm like, okay, so why isn't he the number 1 tackle?
Uh, so this is my theory, and it happens every year. It seems like media scouts are always behind a couple guys that real true NFL scouts are on.
Yeah.
And I think if you interviewed anonymously true NFL front office and scout guys, they have Membu ahead of Campbell. I think the NFL loves Membu.
Yeah.
I think the NFL media scouts are behind on that. And it would not surprise me if Membu was off the board by 5.
I think there's a few guys like that, and you start to catch up, and I think you get closer. Like the mock drafts before Indianapolis, and then you get to Indianapolis, and you can talk to people within the league, and then you realize a lot of things, and then you get a little further, you get a little closer, the more people you talk to, and certainly smoke screens, but I think you start to get a better gauge. I would be
Yep.
very interested to see Patriots at 4 needing a tackle, what the mock drafts say next week, 24 hours before the draft.
But
But for Cowboys
Patriots
purposes,
sitting at 4, and you're staring Abdul Carter in the face, and your new head coach is a defensive guru. How do you walk away from
I
that?
don't think Abdul goes past 3. That's
You don't think?
no. I think I'm still not even sold. The draft odds have shifted dramatically to Travis Hunter at 2. I'm still not totally
Yep.
sold on that because it's like
They want him as a receiver,
receiver,
Cleveland.
yeah. Which feels to me, I heard somebody say he's the best corner prospect that I've ever scouted, and I think it was McShay. That
Wow.
if he's the best corner you've ever scouted, I don't know. I'd play him at corner. I know this is just
I
an endless debate, but I,
I had somebody who I listen to and trust, and I like this. So like watching him at corner, he's Jalen Ramsey, maybe even better. Watching him hit receiver, his ceiling is Chris Godwin. So who would you rather have it to?
yeah.
Like I love Chris Godwin. I'll take Chris Godwin on my team yesterday.
Would you?
But at 2,
How about this? I got one for you to get it back to the Cowboys. Again, I think Abdul probably going to be a giant. I'm going to have to it's just Saquon all over again. Abdul, see you in 2029. as an Eagle, can't wait. We move up the draft board. Say Tet's off the board. He goes in the top 10 because somebody says that the Saints don't go, or they just go, what we need, or the Panthers. They need defense, but they say, you know what? We believe in Tet and we need another weapon for Bryce Young. So now you're at 12. Here's a comp I've heard for Chris Godwin because it's Mr. Do Everything. Not necessarily elite, but very good at almost everything. Emeka Ibuka. Is that too early where you're like,
Yes.
receivers such a need? We got him.
Yes, I think it's
Too
I
early.
think it's too early. I love Ibuka, and I love his ability to play that Robin role, I guess you could say, that he's done his whole career at Ohio State, playing that 1A/2 receiver, right? And he does it so well, and he steps up when he has to if the one is out. I would love Emeka Ibuka. I am all in if they're back at like 18 or 20. Like if for some reason, let's say the Broncos want to come up to 12 and you move back to 20, I would rather have Emeka Ibuka and like another third than just Emeka Ibuka at 12 because and you got to tell me, like, is Golden still there?
That's okay. That's I'll ask that next. Here's the issue with a lot of these. You framed it perfectly. I like them. I don't like them pick 12 worth. I like them
No.
pick 18th worth. But the problem is,
Mhm.
I think there's only so many guys that you're like, I like them at pick 12, but you love them
Yes.
at 17, where it's like,
Yes.
I think there's going to be teams conceived as reaching or teams that get steals because beyond 5 guys in this draft, I think the value of people is so bunched together that you're going to see reaches or steals. And in reality, the range of them is very narrow. I'm going very narrow on YouTube. Thank you, everybody who subscribes.
I think the problem too with that is that if you want to bail out, if you're the Cowboys at 12, you're not going to get this year what moving to 20 should get you in a normal
No.
draft. You're not going to get a 2. It's probably going to be a 3.
Is that the worst thing in the world?
No.
Because
Hell, especially since they do not have a 4. I will take moving back 7 spots, 8 spots, and gain another third, and let's say pick at 20, 44, 72, and 77. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Something like
yeah.
that. Give it to me all day. Because like you and I said, if it's between Golden at 12, who I love,
I'm going to sneeze.
and then 44 and 77, or Emeka Ibuka at 20, 44, 72, and 77, I don't even think it's a question.
That was an incredible clip, and I probably ruined it because I was fighting off a sneeze the entire time. We're in the heart of allergy season. Everything's green. I'm sorry. that was your moment for a clip, and I'm in the background literally fighting a sneeze.
That may even make the clip better.
We'll just have my floating head, just the expressions that I'm making as I'm literally stuffy and like
Yeah.
going the head back, trying to sneeze, just floating around you as you form this very eloquent point on draft styles and Matthew Golden.
Now, let's say Golden is there, right? I think there's like
I
I
think
think
he
if
will be.
Tet is there at 12, I can't move away from Tet. I don't think.
Here, okay. We'll play scenarios. Like we said, we're doing our mock draft tomorrow, so we will have a
Yep.
real legitimate chance to get this. But realistic scenario: Campbell 4, Membu 7, Jets. They're gone. Best 2 tackles. Tet goes top 10. Genty's obviously off the board. He's going to the Raiders. Bing, bang, boom. See you later. So those 4 guys are gone.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any interest in people like Jahad Campbell, a linebacker? Is there any interest in the 3rd tackle, the kid from Texas? Or is it straight up
Brooks.
receiver is such a dire need, we have to go Matthew Golden?
So Brooks was really high like 2 months ago, and I think he slid a little bit.
He's another guy, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, I would love to have him on the
Well,
team.
but they do these breakdowns, and they're like, yeah, Not Donovan Jackson, Collins from Ohio State. They're like, yeah, he does everything better, but he got hurt, and there's some character concerns. But yeah, he's just better than the kid from Texas. I'm like, so why is the kid from Texas higher on every board?
Yeah, I don't get
There's
it.
some math not
Ja
mathing, and it's going to make for a very interesting draft night.
Jahad Campbell, I like him. We've talked about this before. The surgery scares me,
Mm-hmm.
and, like, position of value too. I don't linebacker at 12, I don't know. If I can move back to 16 and pick a pick and Jahad Campbell's still sitting there somehow,
Yes,
yes. And then maybe I can get, you know, I don't know, even know who would fall at 12, or at 44 if I needed a receiver. I mean, the way I'm like,
Ole Miss kid.
yeah, oh
I
yeah,
love him. I've
yes.
fallen in love with
You know who I
everyone
like
from
from
Ole
Ole
Miss.
Miss?
This is a this
You know who I like from Ole Miss? Amos, the cornerback.
Well, we're gonna get to him when we switch over to the Eagles. Trust me. I've fallen in love with
I
all these Old Miss kids, which is probably like a 5 alarm fire. Sound the siren because it was a
yeah,
very underperforming team that had
yes,
an easy chance at the playoff and just blew it by
yep,
losing an
yep.
easily winnable game at home and finishing what 9-3 and or 8-4 something they shouldn't have been with this much talent. So me falling in love with these guys, I'm a little concerned. But go ahead.
Speaking about another SEC team and just, like, blowing my mind about where we are right now in the current
Oh
NCAA
yeah.
college football is that I woke up and, like, read a story that a head coach is like, "We're moving on from, like, starting wide receiver because he didn't agree to keep his $4 million. He wants more." And I'm
The
like,
kid from Tennessee, the Nico
"Yeah, Nico." And now
quarterback,
it seems like there is a line in the sand. Like, all these teams are like, "Nope, we're out. Nope, we're out." Like, it's almost like these powerhouse coaches are aligning. I don't know if you heard, like, one, his father apparently runs the show, and
e
it
every time, every
every
sports
time.
documentary where a kid goes south starts with the dad being overly
Yes,
aggressive,
yes. He almost demanded his son to sit out of the playoff game to have better negotiating power. And then
which
he called Dan Lanning in the offseason from Oregon trying to get more money. And Dan Lanning goes, "Nope," and immediately picked up the phone and called Tennessee to let them know
wow,
that that was happening.
I didn't know that one.
It's
I
like,
knew about the bowl game and him potentially holding out of a playoff game, which also think about the leverage power. You
he's a
won't play
freshman.
in the biggest game of your career, and
Yeah.
you think that will help you with leverage. You want more money to play in the biggest game. The yeah.
And and
Ugh.
and chances are Tennessee was gonna lose that game and no matter what.
But
But if you go and ball out and if you sit, there's nothing they could say, be like, "Oh, well, you lost that game because I wasn't there." No, we were probably gonna lose that game anyway.
well, think about it though. They I know Ohio State went on to win the title, but at the
Uh-huh.
time, they had just come off
Yep,
that loss to Michigan, didn't play in
yep,
the Big 10 championship because of it, right? And everyone was
yep.
like, this team is dead. Like that was the most demoralizing regular season college football loss we've ever seen. And then Tennessee,
As a Notre Dame fan, I can confirm they aren't
they are
dead.
not dead. They are very much alive, and some of their players could be future Eagles and Cowboys. And
Mhm.
but at the time, like they had a legitimate shot. So to hear that
Yep,
stuff, man.
wild.
Meanwhile, back to the Ohio
Um,
State kids. This is like uh, Emeka Buka opportunity to transfer in high school, didn't because he wanted to finish with his friends. He could have transferred at
yep,
any time at Ohio State because it's wide receiver U. They got an elite guy in front of him all the time. He stayed championship. Travion Henderson, the running back, he could have transferred or he could have been upset that they brought in Quinshon Jenkins, the other running back. Instead, he stayed.
yep,
He's the best blitz picker upper in the draft, puts his body on the line for the team. JT Tuimalu came back instead of going to the draft. He'll now be he's on the radar for the Eagles, second round, came back champion. Like all these guys.
yep.
Donovan Jackson played guard. Oh, somebody got hurt at tackle? I'll play tackle. Yeah, I'll step up. I'll do it. Give me those kids
A
every time.
and later mid rounds, like, give me Will Howard. Like,
Yeah.
watching him over some of these other guys that I'm just like, he makes the
Yeah.
throws. Like, listen, I love everything Riley Leonard did but like there is no chance I would draft Riley Leonard in the NFL. I'm sorry. I love him, culture guy. He literally put the team on his back for that first drive in the national championship, literally, and puked on the sideline. I thought he was going to die. But that only goes so
Yeah.
far.
Yeah.
So, and speaking of this Ohio State, if Travion Henderson is sitting there at 44, Dallas run the card up.
Yeah. I think there's
I would love him at 44.
we could probably do a power it's usually a power hour. Let's do a power minute on Ohio State fringe first round guys because it's Tyleik
Mhm.
Williams, it's Donovan Jackson, it's Travion Henderson, it's JT Tuimoloau. I think, and Jack Sawyer too. I think you could throw in maybe a little later,
Yep.
but there's a lot of fringe Ohio State guys who I think are.
I could see Henderson finding his way in the
Me
first.
too. A team is going to fall in love with everything I just said. He was a productive runner who did not bitch when somebody else started to bring his carries. He plays blitz.
Juice.
Yeah, he blitz pickups the best in the draft. He's better than Genty at picking up blocks. A team is going to fall in love with him. The Steelers might at 21, but I think there's a lot of guys there. I know you just said Travion Henderson. Any interest in those other guys?
Yeah. I mean, we already talked about Kabuka.
Yeah.
Um,
Sorry, I did not.
JTT. JTT, I think I think he's been extremely underrated
Yes.
for what his production was and who he was. Sawyer too. I'm a little. I don't want to say a little more concerned about his transition to the NFL. I don't know if he's like that. Just like he was that college guy,
Yeah.
but I don't
He
know.
gives me like Tyler Hansbrough vibes in college
Yeah.
basketball, where it's like,
Yeah.
because your 6'9" power forwards work at Chapel Hill. They don't work in Madison Square Garden.
Like he and this is no disrespect to him and his game, but like he gives me the vibes like every Saturday he's going to be back in Columbus with his Letterman jacket on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like
Well, it's the flag clip. Him getting mad
yes,
about
yep,
the flag. It's, well, don't lose at
yep.
home to Michigan.
He's that alumni that you know is always going to be there buying shots for the boys, getting in there at the bar. You know what I mean? That's my Jack Sawyer take.
He was the Columbus kid. Like, yeah.
Yes.
I'll,
Forever.
I'll say this.
I don't think I would take Jack Sawyer in the
Yeah.
first, even if it was in the back half.
I did do a mock draft for the Eagles where I did Donovan Jackson in the first round. Like I said, he swung out to left tackle. He played left guard for most of the time at his career in Ohio State. I heard this, and in a draft like this where it seems like a lot of high floor, low ceiling guys, I heard this about Donovan Jackson. Todd McShay said, easiest scouting he had to do of any first round prospect. He said it was the easiest one he had to do. He was like, he's great at everything. He's not elite. He won't go to Canton, but he'll be your starting guard for the next decade. And I was like, in a draft like this for the Eagles, where it's more so working the margins, making sure everything's filled out, making sure we're deep, making sure we're solid because we have stars, be solid everywhere else. Put the card in for him.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
I chose JT Tuimoloau in the second round. Well, this is just like a production thing. We need an edge rusher. I know some people think, oh, can he be good in run defense at the next level? I'm looking at the production, and I'm looking at the production in the biggest moments. 6.5 sacks in 4 playoff games. This is the whole theory I subscribe to. He was incredible in the biggest moment. If he doesn't have 6.5 sacks, they exile that coach and send him out to a frozen Lake Erie. And that kid saves his job by the way they play defense in the playoff.
Yep.
That's the person I want in the locker room. I don't know if his measurables are as insane as the kid from Marshall in the first round, the edge rusher. They might not be. By the way, that kid looks exactly like Jalen Hunt. He even does the same
Mike Green,
celebration. It's like I'm watching a clone.
Yeah. And you are literally coming off of a playoff run, a Super Bowl winning run, where you saw some guys do those exact things, step up in the biggest moments. I am drawing a blank, but the linebacker who filled in for Nolan's
Hornberg.
for yeah, I mean, like he stepped up so big. Um, even in the Super Bowl, what Milton Williams
Yeah.
did, it just like the guys they did it all year, right? They were arguably the best team all season, but in the biggest games and the biggest moments in that run, you had dudes step up in every single position. So if anybody knows the importance of that and adding another guy like that, it's the Eagles right now.
It really much, yeah. And it's just depth pieces. This is also a thing I want to say about the Eagles. Uh, I've been I'll post mock drafts and I'll get stuff like this to be like, well, what about more Ojomo? Like if we go defensive tackle, what about Ojomo? And you like we think Ojomo will take that next step and he'll be the starting tackle where Milton Williams is. It's like, okay, but Ojomo played last year.
Yep.
So who is taking his spot? And we do it like, well, Kaylee Ringo will just play corner. It's like, okay, but Kaylee Ringo did have to play last year at certain points. Who's filling his role, even if you think
Yep.
it's a backup? Like, there's no depth behind a lot of positions at this point. So needing to fill in and possibly develop it is huge. And it's edge rusher, defensive tackle, linebacker, corner, safety, you name it on defense. Even guard. Like they're it's like,
Yep.
oh, Steen will just fill in for Becton. It's like, okay, well, Steen made 3 or 4 starts because people were injured. And Fred Johnson made 3 or 4 starts and he's gone. So what's the plan if anybody else who you think we're just assuming these guys will step up and be good? And I think that they will be, but at the same time, either
not everything falls into
not
place like
everything
it did last year every
exactly.
year.
It's not always a Cinderella ride. And 2, war and attrition, people get hurt. Who's
Yep.
the backup?
Yep.
Who's playing?
Yep.
So get
Yep.
guys you can believe in, even if it's in year 1, they're only starting 3 times. If JT Tuamalo is sitting behind 2 guys, but they need somebody in there, play him, start him. If Walter Nolan falls near 32, I'm not going to be like, oh,
why are you doing that to me? I was literally just going to say, scenario, this guy could go at 9 to the 49ers, or let's say he falls. Are you running the card up if Walter Nolan's sitting there at 32 for you?
yes, yeah, yes, yes.
Walter Nolan or yeah, I guess you pick Walter Nolan over JTT at 32.
I would. Yeah, I would.
Are we sponsored by Starbucks now, by the way?
Dude, I put it in because I thought the cup looked official, and then I noticed while you were drinking, I was like, "You got the Starbucks cup too." You know what's funny?
Thank you,
This
Starbucks.
isn't even Starbucks coffee in here. I think it's like the
Don't say that.
the Costco cold brew. Hey, shout out Starbucks.
All right. So yeah, I think so too, and I think Walter Nolan's a guy that the Cowboys love too. I was talking about him months ago,
I think,
but
yeah, you should go after
yeah.
him.
Walter Nolan.
Here's the thing. He keeps. I do these mock drafts, and it's not playing the computer is not the same as playing human beings. He's not going to be there at 32. I think that dream is dead. He's taking a bunch of top 30 visits with teams in the teens. I saw a mock draft. He went 10th. 10th.
Yep. I do like Walter Nolan, and I think he's twitchy. I think he's an athletic freak. I think there's times on tape you watch maybe he takes a play off here or there, but and I still want to add to the defensive line, right? But you basically just made a high draft pick by re-signing Osa,
Mm-hmm.
and he's going to be your motor. So do I want to double dip at 12 in that position that I just put 20 million a year into? When you have so many other holes?
Yeah.
That's my and it's not a personal thing against Walter Nolan. It's just, okay, you just invested 20 million a year in that same position in Osa. And you need a receiver, you need a running back, you need a corner, you need a linebacker. Multiple of all of them. So that's my only do you pass on Walter Nolan because of that?
I think in your range you couldn't pass on him at 32.
No, at 32. No.
32, he is the I can't believe you let the Eagles get away with this again guy of the year.
He's Nolan
Yeah.
Smith.
He is Jalen Carter in the same draft. How did he fall to 9? Quinyon Mitchell at 22. So this year, I would like to present the "How did you let the Eagles get away with this again" award, and it is going to Walter Nolan. Congratulations to Walter Nolan on this and tremendous success.
I just think about the trajectory of the Cowboys if they had Nolan Smith opposite Micah Parsons rather than Fat Mozzie Smith sitting in the middle.
I had a great time at the draft stream.
That was fun. Remember, I was like Nolan Smith, no Mozzie Smith.
And then I was looking at the board and I'm like, it was actually between him and the corner from Clemson, right? They both
Porter. No, Joey Porter Jr.
That worked out too.
Yeah.
There was somebody else too. There were like 3 guys, and I was doing the math, and I'm like, all right, we're 2 picks away, and there's 3 guys left that I like.
Yeah, you're like, we're getting one of them.
I started to do the math, and I think it'll be that way at 32. I think they're like I said, there's 15 names, and the Eagles have said they don't have a first round grade in a lot of these guys. If any of them slip, I think if the edge rusher from Marshall slips, that's a name to consider. Walter Nolan, if he slips, that's a name to consider. Aside from that, like a lot of the offensive line prospects, I think are all kind of formed in together. So I don't think you'd have to move too much. But I think you're going to be sitting there at 32. There's going to be we're going to be at pick 29, and you're going to say to yourself, if the Eagles, you're like, I'm doing the math. There's a lot of guys left.
I'm going to connect the dots here too for you. At 44 for the Cowboys, second round pick. Nice. You know the Cowboys always have a blue star special, right? Injured guy, Jalen Smith. Questionable guy, Joseph from Kentucky. It's always a blue star special, we say, in the second round. That is when they go after their guys that could have been first round picks, but they're not because they either ran somebody over with a car or they have drop foot. Like that's
one or the other.
Yeah, it's literally. So we're gonna try.
He robbed the bank, and they knew it was him because of the knee surgery he recently had.
He couldn't run, but he has potential. So at 44, I think the Cowboys have a very high chance of taking Ravel, the cornerback from East Carolina,
good,
who's coming off an ACL surgery.
Yeah,
because his tape is great. Mm-hmm. He's got the size. They have a need at corner. You know, you watch his tape before the ACL, you're like, yeah, first round pick. Like I've heard a lot of scouts have a first round grade on him. And Aiden, Cowboys doctor did the surgery.
Is that derogatory or positive?
That is Jerry and Steven saying, we have the inside track. We know everything about the medicals on this guy.
True.
We got the HIPAA information.
Well, if they don't go him, I might be a little concerned.
You know who else the Cowboys surgeon did? Jalen Smith did the knee surgery for him too. So
I don't think I don't think I could do a larger contrast between these two franchises than the Cowboys having a blue star guy who is like character concerned, injury riddled guy, and the Eagles always drafting 2 or 3 red star guys, which they call that in the building. And it's the guy who's like the team captain, led the team in tackles, helps the old ladies cross the street, has an RAS score of 12 out of 10 because his broad jump, he actually skyrocketed through the roof. One of those, they have 2 or 3 of those every year, and they call him the red star guy. Jalix Hunt, Brown were red star guys, and you do blue star guys, which is like Kelvin Joseph. He's a rapper.
They didn't help the old lady across the street. The Cowboys pick literally ran across the street and threw her down in the middle of the street while the bus was coming. And then the Eagles second round pick came and picked her up and saved her life 2 seconds away from the bus running her over.
Yep, exactly. Red star guy, blue star guy.
Yep. There you go. Second round for the Cowboys, second round for the Eagles. Back to 12. I think they are honing in on receiver. We also heard a couple weeks ago Brian Schottenheimer saying that they want to build from the outside in. It is a massive need. They need to help out their zillion-dollar quarterback. CeeDee Lamb needs help. If CeeDee Lamb went down at all in any season, it's over. And it may be over already. I don't know if you saw the Vegas over-unders for win total. What do you think Vegas has the Cowboys at?
8.5.
7.5.
Ooh. I was gonna say
They are they are in they are
later.
in they are lined up with the Jacksonville Jaguars,
That seems like a reach for the Jaguars.
the Indianapolis Colts, the New England Patriots.
That well,
Like
mm,
that and I don't. That seems high to me for the Patriots. Maybe it's they think Vrabel's going to come, but like I don't think it's crazy. Now I think the
no.
Cowboys could win. I mean, I may put a little something on that and hope they get to 8 wins. But I mean, everybody's like, well, Dak got hurt last year. Yeah, they were getting walloped when he was still in there before he got hurt last season. I don't know if you remember. They were down 3 scores to Atlanta
Yeah.
with Kirk Cousins. Penix wasn't there yet. So this team needs a lot of needs. But wide receiver 2/1A is a big one. And I am good with Tetero McMillan. I am good with Matthew Golden. Two completely different receivers. Tetero McMillan, more that 4-5 guy, right? But I don't know if did you watch him? He
Mhm.
glides. Like he doesn't look like a 4-5 guy.
No.
He gets away from defenders just because he uses his every ounce of energy in his body the right way when he's running. He looks a lot faster than 4 or 5.
Well,
He's contested ball guy, right? He'll go. It's like it's not 50-50. It's 70-30.
that's what I was
That
gonna
if
say.
you throw it up.
He's got like a T Higgins catch radius, so it kind of makes up
Yep.
if he has like a quote unquote lack of speed, which really isn't a total lack of speed. He's not slow.
No, and I think that's the type of guy that Dak needs, right? I'm not saying, is Dak going to be able to hit the home run ball down the field to Matthew Golden consistently?
Mhm.
I don't know. Where if he's going to get the ball to Tetero McMillan, and he's going to have 8 catches for 87 yards and a touchdown every week.
The one thing with Golden that would be very beneficial for the Cowboys is his ability to clear space over the top, take a safety
Yes.
with him, and then
Yep.
Godspeed to the corners that have to stick with CeeDee Lamb underneath. And that could lead
And-
to, if Golden only has 2 receptions, it means that's because CD has 12. You know?
Yes. And they haven't had that, right,
Mhm.
on the offense. Now, they're going to probably add a little bit more because now they signed
Slow.
yeah,
And the Chargers
they
too.
signed Turpin.
The Chargers
They
are
re-signed Turpin.
slow.
Oh yeah. Yes. And I think if you did have, CD, Golden, and Turpin out there together, like the combination speed of Golden and Turpin taking the top off would be phenomenal. And that's why I'm good with Golden, right? I think his athletic traits give him maybe a higher ceiling than Tet. He's a good route runner, but it's not refined yet. Like I think I said to you, I think if you get Tet, right, I've seen his comp as current player Drake London,
Yeah.
which I'm cool with, and I've heard former players like Brandon Marshall. And you give me Brandon Marshall at 12, thank you, and a handshake, and I'm moving on.
Definitely.
I think he will be more consistent early. Like every week, he's going to have 6-7 catches, 75 to 100 yards, a touchdown every other week. Where Matthew Golden, week 2, is going to give you 5 for 135 and a touchdown with a 60-yard touchdown. But the next week, he's going to have 1 for 12 yards.
It might be ants in the cup early. Might be little ants in the cup.
Might be. So, but like you said earlier about Ohio State, when Texas needed plays, especially at the end, especially during their playoff games, who they go to? It was Golden, right? It was if you watch that Arizona State tape from the playoff game, they had him bracketed and the corners were pooping their pants because there's nothing they could do.
Yeah.
And he was just, the separation was unbelievable and he was getting the job done. So I think if the card is ran up and they're both on the board, I'm good with either. It's just, how does Brian Schottenheimer want to play offense?
Give me 2 non-receivers to fill out your Mount Rushmore of guys you'd be most excited with if the Cowboys took them at 12, within reason, because we don't think somebody like Ashton Genty would be there at pick 12. Yep.
All right, so Genty doesn't
He does
count.
not.
So I need how many up? 3?
Two. So you have the 2
Two?
wide receivers. You'd be happy with Tet or Golden. and then 2 other guys where you're like, you know what, Tet went at 9, but I'm happy we got blank at 12.
So I'm going to go a little off script here. I think that maybe some people from the Cowboys would be like, "What?" Now, if Tet and Golden are gone, right, and you still need a weapon and a cat pass catching weapon, I'm good with Tyler Warren at 12.
I was gonna ask. I think he'll go top 10. How about this though? Okay, Warren goes top 10. Colson Loveland's there at 12. You need a pass catcher. Yes, no.
I don't think so because I like the kid from LSU in the second round,
Mason Taylor.
Mason Taylor. I think Mason Taylor is the second best tight end in the draft.
Okay, brief interjection for Eagles stuff. There's been too much smoke now that we have to. It started as a brush fire and it has expanded too much. I have now heard on 3 podcasts mentioning Mason Taylor with the Eagles at pick 32. Daniel Jeremiah has Mason Taylor as the 32nd overall prospect, 32 on the dot, where the Eagles are. He mentioned the Eagles. He mentioned Mason Taylor being a first round pick. I'm like, all right. I said on this show before, Jeremiah seems pretty connected considering he's texting with Howie Roseman. I go to the Todd McShay show. He says the same thing. He goes, don't be surprised if Mason Taylor goes in the first round. And then he goes, look there at the Eagles with Dallas Goedert in that situation. The most well-connected people are telling us that Mason Taylor could go into the first round, and they're mentioning the Eagles by name.
I think he would be a perfect fit.
Yeah.
So, especially if they can move on from Goddard and get something for him. I honestly listen. I love Warren. I don't think Mason Taylor's that far off. And just like I said about Golden with Texas, when LSU needed a play, they went to Mason Taylor.
Yep.
And he made the play.
And I will.
You need 12. He's getting you 18.
There you go. That's what you want, especially on this roster.
Yep. I needed one more, right?
Yes.
So I have to be within reason. So no Abdul Carter, no Hunter.
If you need me to throw out names, I can. I've got a few.
No, I think Membu, honestly, if he realistically could be there, Campbell too. But I just like, I'm not fully bought in on almost anything on this offensive line, right? Steele at right tackle has, he's one of the best run blocking tackles in the league, but he's kind of come back to form. I mean, do I trust Brock Hoffman maybe for 6 games, but not for an entire season? I am good at center. I mean, Tyler Guyton at left tackle, it seems like he's still got a lot of work to do there. So I'm not sold there. If you could get me arguably 1 or 1A at tackle this year, and that's what's crazy about like last year's tackle draft. I think these guys would be like 5, 6 down the board. I even like Simmons, man. Simmons from Ohio State. If he has his knee's good. I know he had the patella. I'd be good with Simmons too. So I'm gonna go Membo or Simmons. You can just put a slash
There
there.
you go. I'm a little surprised no Jahdae Barron, but
yeah. You know what? I do. Yes, I do. I would be good with that too. I forgot about Barron. I'm sorry. I can't talk about arm length enough. I just don't know if they would do that there because I think they have their eyes set on their Blue Star Special. I also, they like length, they like size, they like arm length, and I just don't know if Jahdae Barrett fits what they want at corner.
understood.
So I don't know, but I'd be cool with him. Yeah, again, another guy just takes the ball away, right? Makes plays.
Yep. That kind of leads perfectly into my Mount Rushmore. So I'm going to rattle off a few names for the Eagles at 32.
Okay.
Now, I'm trying to be realistic. I don't have Walter Nolan. I think he'll be gone. I think a lot of the edge rushers will be gone. James Pierce Jr., the kid from Marshall. His name's Mike Green. Am I messing this up? He has
Mike Green.
I keep thinking Mike White, and I don't know why.
That Mike White is the former quarterback that was on the Cowboys and then played a couple games for the Jets and Yeah.
He is the director of White Lotus, which I just finished, and now I can't get his name out of my head. So I keep getting the Marshall kid's name wrong because of White Lotus. That might be the only time you hear a crossover between Marshall football and White Lotus season 3. I think he'll be off the board. I think even Azaraku will probably be off the board. I've cooled on him a little bit. He was my prospect originally. The Eagles met with him. I did not know this. Shout out to Anthony Devonia. He's been tracking the top 30 visits. He mentioned Azaraku's from New Jersey. He's within the mile radius
Yep.
that it counted as a local visit. So they probably met with him and it didn't count against their 30. I also just think he'll be gone. So I've cooled on him a little bit. Won't be upset if we take him. I just don't know interest level times availability. So
Yep.
but there are more guys here. So you mentioned corners that can take the ball away. If I could do a slash, Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky, I love it. Fastest corner in the draft. Thank you. Sign me up. Give the card. Done. Trey
Yep.
Amos, Ole Miss. We touched on
Yep.
him a little bit. He
I'm
looks
in.
like he was
Yep.
he was created in a factory for cornerbacks.
If Amos is sitting there at 44 and I'm the Cowboys, you sprint the card up.
Yeah. I agree.
And then you figure out running back in the third.
Yeah. Also agree.
Because I'm good with Sampson from Tennessee in the third. Yeah, there's Harvey. You figure it out.
Donovan Jackson, who I mentioned earlier, that's probably the least. Gray Zabel is the least sexy pick, and I'd be okay with him too. I just don't think he'll be there. Donovan Jackson, I know, is not sexy at all. Mason Taylor is another one. If they take him at 32, I would be like if we're doing a draft stream, I'm like a huzzah, but I'm not like trying to backflip because Harold Fannin Jr. I think you could get at 64, but sign me up for Taylor at that position. And then the last one I had, just I'm trying to be realistic with these. And I think a lot of these are off the board. Scourton will be there. I won't be jumping for joy, but I do think that's a reasonable pick for the Eagles. And the last one, Tyleik Williams.
Yeah, that's all those guys I see fit for the Eagles, which scare me for what you guys need.
Yeah, and I think Tyleik Williams, more of a run guy, like run stuffer, not necessarily get up the field. And Howie Roseman said in his press conference today, he was like, we've kind of adjusted how we see defensive tackles and we want them to get up the field, gets the quarterback. So with him, I'm not as positive on it. And I think Walter Nolan, again, is like your prototypical defensive tackle that gets to the pass rusher. So that'll be interesting to see how they play that. And then there's just a ton of guys in the second round. We talked about JTT. A Femi update, Oladejo. I'm getting scared. I'm getting really scared. I thought this was going to be like a round 3, round 4 guy that I could stash. Round 2. I'm getting scared that he might not even make it to 64.
But there's a shot you move back out of the first round, and you can get him and pick up a pick.
Yeah.
If you don't pick at 32.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. And if you don't go Donovan Jackson, I do think there's reasonable offensive line depth later and down the board. If you want to go with one of these other positions early, and go with one of those other positions at 32 and or 64.
You know who else I like for the Cowboys at 44, and he's not getting as much love as I don't understand, is Johnson, the running back from Iowa.
Yeah.
I really like his game, and I don't know why he's not being lumped up there with Omarion Hampton and Travion Henderson and them. If the pick was Johnson at 44, depending on what they do at 12, like I'm good with it because I think the Omarion Hampton hope at 44 is long gone.
I don't think he makes
somebody
it past Washington, to be honest, in the first round.
Yeah. And that's my hope. Listen, I like him, but again, I've said that I think in 5 years we're gonna look back on this draft class and be like, damn, there's a lot of running backs in the league right now from that draft.
Yep.
So that's why it's like I don't want the Cowboys to be like, we need a runner and we need to get him right now at 12. Genty's gone. We need to jump at Hampton. I don't want that.
Yeah,
because again, I like Hampton, but not at 12.
No. Yeah, I agree. I was just going through all my old mock drafts to see who else I liked like later in the rounds. The Penn State safeties, give me one of them.
Yeah. What do you think? Kobe King scares me, the linebacker.
Eagles did a top 30 visit with him.
You did? You had a 30 visit?
Yeah.
The Eagles did?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't love them.
I have Penn State bias, so I should not be considered. Jalen Reed, though, is the one. The safety is just there's too much on tape not to love. Like you watch him,
Yep.
you put him in. If you put C.J. Gardner-Johnson on the back of his jersey instead of a blue Penn State one, you wouldn't tell the difference. Honestly, that's the easiest one to me in terms of like. I think there's 5 positions realistically that they want to. Let's safety, corner.
Yep.
Edge.
Yep.
DT. Oh God, guard, tight end. All right, so there's 6. We have. I'm thinking first 4 rounds. The easiestly replaceable one, I think, is the safety.
Yes. I'll tell you a safety. I'm sure you've watched him, and it would pain my heart if he wears that midnight green.
I know who you're gonna say.
Is Xavier Watts.
I was about to Xavier. Listen, Xavier. I got a 2nd round wish list that's longer than a 5-year-old's wish list for Santa Claus. They want every toy in Toys R Us. The kids still go to Toys R Us. Does Emma go to Toys R Us? Do you guys have one?
No, I don't think it's a thing.
Oh man, well that's a shame.
I know.
We had in my hometown.
Yeah.
The Toys R Us was next to our county prison, so you'd literally they shared a parking lot, which I always thought was really really funny. But yeah, I have a really long day 2 wish list. I talked about Femi. I think there's some offensive line depth there. Xavier Watts would not hate that at all. There's a lot of guys there that you'd say, whew. The tight ends that we mentioned, I think Terrence Ferguson's probably round 3, but Fannin Jr. round 2. There's a lot to love for us at pick 44 and pick 62. Would love it. Would love it.
Would love it. All right, that's all I got. I'm exhausted.
Yeah, dude.
Now, we just went through way more than just the first round, which I love, and this shows you our passion for this and how how all in we are. But tomorrow we will be recording and releasing our first round mock draft. Aiden and I will be making the picks together. It's always one of our most fun shows that we do for the entire season. We will have the simulator up on the board, so make sure you subscribe right here to our YouTube page so you can watch that. And we will make picks, all 32. Are we going to – no trades, right?
Trades,
just straight up picks.
For time purposes.
Yep, straight up picks. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We are 1 week out. Make sure you tell your friends, tell your families if you have not yet. And if they have not yet, subscribe everywhere we are at Birds vs. Boys, right here on our YouTube page. Like and comment below. We appreciate all of our loyal listeners and followers. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, we are there, and definitely on social media, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter as well. I have to, and I will, I promise. It's just, you can tell by the amount of content coming out who has 2 children and who does not. I keep promising and so I will put out a walking mock today. I think I should have time. So you look for that as well. I'll do first 3 rounds for the Cowboys.
I did 4-round mock draft. Just put it on TikTok for the Eagles. So
I would do a 4-round too, but we don't have a 4th round pick.
Why is that?
I don't know. The Mingo ate the baby.
The Mingo ate the baby. Everybody comment your arm length.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Enjoy these last few days before the draft. We will be back very soon.
Chris Hansen here, and I'm going to need you all to take a seat right over there and check out Birds vs. Boys.
I think you're completely right here, and I hate it.
Yep. Hey, idiots. Stop doing dumb things.
I got 2 phones.
Upset alert. I might go insane.
I think you're already there.
There's no hope. Hope is gone. If this was an AFC North podcast, we'd be done in 15 minutes.
Bob Hope. I'm going to drink bleach.
That is?
Be the team you promised me you were going to be this year!
This is the Consciously Hopeful podcast.
I'll be watching.